The SEC has 9 teams in this conference this year that you can make an argument for can make it to the playoffs this season. This is the deepest conference in college football in terms of the amount of quality that you see from the top 4 to the top 10 teams in this conference, which means that with so many quality teams being in one conference, that you're going to have an oversaturation of talent influx and an overinflation of expectations for every program. Every program in the SEC outside of Vanderbilt and Kentucky expect to compete for the playoffs, expect to be a national championship contender, expect to be in the SEC championship game. And no program has higher expectations than what LSU football has for themselves. It was 6 years ago when we last saw LSU hoisting up that all-gold national title trophy with Joe Burrow. This season, they expect to be in the mix to do that once again. They have a top 5 roster. They have a lot that comes back with Garrett Nussmeier, Will Weeks, Harold Perkins. Then you also bring in a lot of pieces in the transfer portal. This is LSU's best shot under Brian Kelly to not just win the SEC, but to compete for a spot in the college football playoffs. There is a lot of pressure that they have entering week 1. Auburn, similar situation. There's a lot of high expectations for what Auburn could be, possibly a dark horse contender in the SEC this year. Maybe they end up being a surprise team that comes out of nowhere and makes it into the playoffs. That's if they get good quarterback play. That's if Hugh Freeze's offense clicks this year. In week 1, LSU and Auburn are under the microscope. If both of these two teams lose in week 1, their season could unravel very fast with how tough their schedules are the first month of this season. By the time we get to the end of October, we could already see the fate of LSU and Auburn seasons decided. You could go into the end of October and see Auburn and LSU either 2-4, 4-2, or 6-0. How they perform in week 1 is going to define the perception of what this season will be for these teams. There's a lot of potential with both Auburn and LSU. You can argue that there aren't too many teams in the SEC that have a higher floor, a lower floor, but an incredibly sky-high ceiling as what LSU and Auburn have in terms of what they possibly could do if everything goes right this season. But there are a lot of variables that could go wrong for both of these teams. Clemson is one of the best teams in college football. Baylor is a very sneaky team in the Big 12. Auburn still doesn't know how their quarterback situation is going to shape out. Yeah, you got confidence that Jackson Arnold can be good. He's a former Gatorade National Player of the Year winner in high school, but his turnovers are something that a guy like Dave Aranda, the head coach of Baylor, looks at, and he starts having a huge grin on his face because he knows, being one of the best defensive minds in college football, his defense is going to be able to come up with a bunch of those, and turnovers or decides games 9 times out of 10. And Auburn, their inconsistency on offense could be multiplied with their volatility taking care of the football against Baylor. Clemson is an absolute dogfight that LSU is walking into. Both teams have the same amount of talent, so what decides the games is about the Jimmies and the Joes and the X's and O's. Do you trust Brian Kelly, who has yet to win a week 1 game since he's been the head coach at LSU? Or do you trust Dabo Swinney? Do you trust a Clemson team that returns most of their starters from last year, that built their team up to what it is right now mainly through recruiting, or do you trust LSU, who brings in a few returning guys, but also heavily dipped in the transfer portal? They're going all out on this season. Week 1 is about to tell us a lot about both LSU and Auburn, because a win, you're feeling really good about what can happen this year. You feel less uncertain about Brian Kelly and Hugh Freeze as what you do right now. But with losses, I think not only will they start the season out with the L, but you'll start to see a snowball effect. You're starting to see a domino effect, where now you get into conference play, you're going up against Florida, South Carolina back-to-back weeks, and you're LSU. You lose those games, and all of a sudden, start having conversations about Brian Kelly's job security. Same thing goes with Hugh Freeze. Brian Kelly, it's either playoffs or get fired. For Hugh Freeze, you're just trying to get the 7 wins, because even 6 wins might not be feasible for Auburn this year, depending on their quarterback situation. Week 1, Auburn and LSU are under an incredibly big microscope.